Good morning. Well, it's chilly today. Actually, it doesn't feel that bad because we got some beautiful sunshine. So it's going to be a nice day. We're going to get the corn planter out and have Brock power wash that when he gets here. There's a little bit of fertilizer in it yet, so we're going to get that out here this morning. But the first thing I'm going to do is take the gator down to my house. They moved all those I-joists yesterday, and all that plastic and the rocks and stuff that I had sitting there to cover it up is all sitting there in the grass. So I'm going to clean up that stuff and just see how things are going down there, and then we'll come back and dig the corn planter out. Okay, well, let's get that corn planter out of here. Brock put this back in here last week. You can see, got it cleaned up pretty decent. And there's new hardware on everything. Painted the closing wheels up nice. It looks pretty good. So that can sit there until May, something like that. All right, I hooked up the hoses and electrical lines that I had to make it unfold, but I don't think I need the rest of the stuff hooked up. So we're gonna pull this out. We're gonna pull in front of our fertilizer dikes because we've got about 50 gallons of starter in that tank that we got to get out somehow. So I'm gonna attempt to gravity feed it back into our bulk tank that is completely empty. So it should work, but we'll see. Okay, I've got hose hooked up to the back of the planter, runs up, connects directly to that tank that is empty. So when I push this button and open my valve, electric valve on the bottom of this tank, it should start flowing out of there. Now the hose is moving, so it must be doing something. Okay, I've missed being away from the farm so much and driving tractor that I just decided to come back here in the grass and unfold the planter, and we're gonna make a round just so I can say that I planted something today. What we're gonna do is exactly that, but it's to break some of the rust and stuff, dirt off of the no-took holders, fertilizer openers, seed openers, to clean them up a little bit, shine them up before we wash it. And I put some water in that fertilizer tank after I got it empty, and I just kind of want to flush it through everything. Planting, kinda, a little too wet. I'm probably gonna get more mud on the planter than off the planter. That's all right. Brock can clean it. Right, Brock? Yeah. Actually, he already washed it, so I've got the heavy stuff off. So this is mostly fertilizer flushing of the lines. Okay, we are ready to wash. So we're gonna open the row units up a little bit so we can spray water through them. Those will get cleaned out much better in the winter when we go through this before we bring it out to plant. And we'll pull gauge wheels off here later today to get in between there a little bit better and clean that stuff out. But Brock already got most of the heavy stuff. It's just going through and cleaning it up and trying to get, the mud off of the gauge wheels here and take a look at stuff. We at one point, or I'm pretty sure we're going to put new openers on before next year. I had thought about doing that now, but we're sort of running out of time with wheat harvest coming, so I think we're just going to clean it up, put stuff back in the barn, and we'll worry about it in the winter when we've got more time. So yeah, I'm gonna let Brock work on this. I have not been to Berkey since I've been back for like 2 weeks, so I'm gonna go there, take a look at the crops. We'll maybe do a little scouting, and then we're gonna drag the Draper head home and get that ready. Well, we're not gonna get it ready today. We're gonna get home so we can get it ready later this week. That's the plan. When Dad was finishing up spraying the beans down to Berkey here, he had a hose start leaking on the sprayer, so he ordered a new one here at the dealer, and I stopped in to get it. Thought I'd drive through their lot. A couple of older combines, 9660, 9650. Some tillage equipment. They don't have much here. A new ripper, 2720. Is that a 5-shank? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is. It'd be a newer version of like that 512, that small ripper that we have. And there's another one that's a little bigger. Kind of unusual for an ag dealer to have a backhoe, but they do. And a little mini excavator. There's some of our beans down here. We'll pull in the other end of this field and take a look. Lots of volunteer corn, and it's all dying. If you remember last year down here at Berkey, we were extremely dry, much drier here than at Waldron, and our corn was not great. In fact, it was pretty crappy. And we were fighting down corn. We had a lot of corn that had fallen over, the stalks had broken and gone flat. Well, that's why there's so much volunteer corn out here. When the stalks break over, it's hard to pick up all those ears and get them into the head. And so we ended up with kernels, seed, or the grain laying out here. It overwinters, and then it starts growing, and it grows in these clumps like this, where there was an ear here, and all the kernels started growing. So not a good thing. It looks ugly in your beans. Relatively easy to clean it up with the right chemicals. So Dad sprayed it. It is dying, but it was ugly. Now, while we're talking about volunteer corn, interesting note here. You can see there's a fair amount out here, some streaks, different spots. There's quite a bit. But if you look across this little lane on the other side of that woods, there's very little. I'm not saying there isn't any, but it's not nearly as bad as this side of the field or over on that side of the woods. And so our theory here, last year when we came down here, we finished harvesting our soybeans here, and then before we could get into corn, we had a big windstorm come through. And on the other side of this field, the west side, there were so many bean leaves piled in the first 2 or 3 rows of the corn from the neighbor's field that we could barely get the head through it to combine the stuff. Well, these trees here protected this corn, and it didn't blow over and go down, so we didn't have as broken stalks issues right here. So we don't have as much volunteer corn. As soon as you get past the woods, the end of it, out there on the other side of this field, and the volunteer corn is there again. And that wind event that we had middle of October last year was just a killer for us. So then across the road, that's our field too. We've got a bunch there. Now, on a side note, the beans here look really good. I mean, these are beautiful looking beans. We do have some speckling. This is not great. That's chemical damage. It's the herbicide that we used on this can cause that under the right or wrong conditions, however you want to look at it. But these beans are small enough, they will grow out of that. I'm not too concerned about it. Let's see, we have got V1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wow. V7 soybeans. That's pretty good. These were not our early planted beans. I don't remember when it was, but it was middle of May. So they're growing fast. They look good. So one of the chemicals that Dad sprayed last week had a little bit, it's a little more potent. It's got some residual into it. And we didn't use it on all the acres, but where we did use it, it speckled the beans up a little bit. And we used it where we think we're going to have more trouble with mare's tail or water hemp or some of the tougher to control weeds. It looks wetter here. I'm thinking we had more rain over the last couple of weeks here than we did at the home farm. This corn looks pretty good though. It's growing, looks nice, beautiful color. I don't see too much striping in the leaves, a little bit. I'm happy with this. Although I am still seeing that pinch row stuff that I talked about yesterday. Let me find the planter's path. Be right here. See it? This row. And this row. Same thing we saw yesterday. It's here. It would be nice to be able to fix that. That one's yellow. Somebody did ask me about the how much the tracks will help, and is the potential yield improvement worth the extra cost of the tractor? And to be honest, I don't know. The first thing to answer is how much is it costing us? You know, what is that? Those 2 or really 6 rows? Not here. This one. How much is that yield reduction? It's definitely something. I don't know how much, but I have figured out a way to quantify that. So probably not here at Berkey, but at one of our farms up at Waldron where I can see it really bad. I intend to go out and flag out a planter pass, and then when we harvest this fall, we'll just harvest it 1 row at a time, or maybe 2 rows, 1 on each side from the tractor pass. and we can weigh it, and we can figure out how much the yield reduction is, you know, based on how much different they are. So that's something I think I'm going to try and do here this week, is flag out a pass and then keep track of that throughout the year, so we can go back to it and try and figure out, you know, how much does a row where there's no compaction out from the wing of the planter yield versus a row that's next to a tire but not between the tires yield versus the one that is between the tires. See what we can figure out there. And that should give us an answer as to how much we're losing. The thing that I can't answer is how much would a track tractor help. It's not going to eliminate the problem. It's going to reduce it, but how much, and how much is that worth? And I don't know there. As far as purchase price of a new tractor, tracks versus tires, if you're looking at a 2-track John Deere, like an 8RT, there's probably not a ton of purchase price difference. Now an 8RX with the 4 tracks, those are probably 100,000 more than a wheeled machine. So there is a big purchase price difference there, and they're more maintenance. Tracks have idlers and rollers and all kinds of bearings and stuff that have issues that you have to do maintenance on, and they can be sort of expensive. So I don't know if it's worth it. I really don't. But anyway, we're here for that. Big fancy door. It's a little slow to open. So this bean head, yep, this is our bean head. It's a 640 FD, 40-foot Draper. And we're gonna haul it back to Waldron. Before we leave, we're gonna take these snouts off to make it less wide and easier to transport. So it's pretty easy to do. You need a 24 millimeter and a 10 millimeter, which the 10 millimeter is not even in there. So we need a 24 millimeter wrench or 15/16 socket. We can take those out real easy. There, now it's not quite so wide. We won't take out all the signs along the side of the road. I don't think we have a ton to do to this. I always like to go through and put new knife sections on every year before wheat, and we need to go through the cutter bar and change probably like that guard. Some of these guards are worn, and look at all of that stuff real close. But we did a lot last year with Draper belts and bearings and some of that kind of stuff, so there shouldn't be a ton. The bean head is one of those things, though, that when we're done using it, we're really quickly getting into corn harvest, and so we don't take the time to really put it away, go through it and clean it up and do a really good job with it. We did blow it off and make sure that it was fairly clean, but it did not get power washed, so we may wash it off a little bit. Plus there's a lot of cobwebs and stuff on it, and so we'll clean it up a little bit. We'll, like I said, do the cutter bars and look it over, but shouldn't need a ton of work. Okay, I got that all cleaned up. Dad has some plans of doing some work to this barn. We want to put steel on the front here. In fact, we've got the steel. It's sitting in the barn. It's been there for 2 years. We just haven't had time and gotten to it. So, but he wanted to take these doors off the front that we never use anymore, frame some of that stuff in, replace these windows. So we've got the stuff to do it. We just need the time to do it now. But I know he grabbed some boards. He had some boards that he had cut up a while ago and had stored them down here, and he came and got them and took them back up to Waldron, was planing them off and cutting stuff to dimension it right to use for framing lumber. So maybe sometime this summer we'll get to that. I made it. So we're just going to park that there for right now. Probably won't worry about doing anything to it until later in the week. We gotta get the corn planter put away first. We're gonna have to get the combine out to pick the head up to do much to it. So it'll be a few days. Let's see how Brock's doing. We got some gauge wheels off, a few. It looks cleaner, but it's wet. All right, well, Brock's been greasing and cleaning and putting stuff back on the planter here. I think we're pretty good. He did go through and sprayed some fluid film on all the openers and coulters and fertilizer openers and all of that stuff to keep them from rusting too terrible bad. And we got the row units put back on. He kind of rinsed those out. We'll go through and clean those a lot better in the winter, so I'm not terribly concerned about it right now. This chain here could use something, although pretty good chance we're going to take this whole fertilizer pump drive assembly off and put something different on for next year, because remember, that was giving me some troubles. And the part that I need to fix it, that might fix it, that they're going to make me change next, is $3,200, and for $5,000 I think I could get something quite a bit better, so that I know will work. Anyway, so Brock's just going through hitting the last few grease zerks. We need some RV antifreeze to winterize the fertilizer system yet. That's the big thing. Probably we're going to run tomorrow and get some of that. So we'll fold this up and move it out of the way, but we're not going to put it away in the barn until I get that RV antifreeze. All right, well, we're done with that planter for today. I'll get some RV antifreeze tomorrow and we'll go through that. I had Brock get our sprayer put back in our ATV here. There's 2,4-D in there right now, so I'm gonna go spray my grass again. It's a touch windy today, but there's literally nothing around that I can kill that I don't want to kill, so it'll be okay. And then we'll talk about the house, see what they did today. I'll show you guys that. Well, I managed to empty that tank. So we got some progress today. Check it out. They got all of the I-joists installed and a lot of the rim board around the outside, and it looks great. I am thrilled. I assume tomorrow they'll put the deck on, or the plywood or OSB on the top here. I don't know. I didn't really ask them what the plan is for tomorrow. It doesn't matter. They can do it however they want, whatever they want. So we got a stairwell here that's going to go down to the basement from the garage. And then this other cutout over here is another stairwell that goes down from the first floor down. So that stuff's all framed in. Looks great. Can also see we've got a few piles of materials. Some really expensive lumber sitting here, but what are you gonna do, right? So we've got studs, we've got 2x6s, we've got OSB, we've got more stuff, we've got more stuff. The zip system is the outside OSB. It's got this waterproof membrane or coating or whatever you call it applied to the outside, so they'll use that instead of house wrap and then tape all the joints. That's an expensive pile right there. Yep, but it looks great. Sure changes the look underneath here in the basement. I don't know if it makes it look bigger or smaller. It looks tall to me when they put the I-beam through here, and it's way down here. But then by the time you set the I-joist on top of that, plus the rim board, or the rim joist, yeah, the flat board up there that they're setting on, yeah, we're tall. So we poured 9-foot walls for the concrete, but then we lost 6 inches for our floor, 2 inches of foam, and then the 4 inches of concrete. So really, but then we gain 1.5 inches at the top, so we're just under 9 foot to the bottom of the boards there, and then obviously you get your beams underneath it. So looks great. So awesome. Have some progress. All right, well, Dad did some spraying with that. He put some Roundup in. Brock went home. I'm not sure where I left off the last thing I filmed, actually. Maybe down around my house. I don't know. I've spent 2 hours at least here or more trying to clean up seed business accounts. I know I was working on that yesterday some. I got the return stuff taken care of yesterday, but today I was just going through every single one of my customers one at a time, making sure that what the computer says, that our Golden Harvest web system says that they have on order is what they actually took and planted, and what they say that they've paid is what they actually paid, and it covers their balances and all of that kind of stuff. It's a pain in the butt, but once a year we got to go through and do all that stuff to make sure that everything meshes and matches and it's all straight. So I've pretty well got that done now. Things will change a little bit with some double crop soybeans. I've got some refund checks to send to guys that return stuff. I've got a couple that need to pay me yet. But outside of that, seed business stuff is starting to wrap up. Tomorrow, I have 3 trucks coming. 2 of them are getting loaded full of empty boxes. One of them is taking the corn seed returns. And so that's why I wanted to make sure I get all that stuff around. So we'll deal with that tomorrow. We're also going to make a run for RV antifreeze tomorrow to finish that corn planter up. Brock will be back in the morning, so I'm going to have him clean out that back corner of the shop where we keep the corn planter, and we'll once we get that done, we'll get that unhooked and put in there. And maybe we'll dig the combine out tomorrow afternoon and start thinking about getting that bean head hooked up. I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully more progress on the house and things keep rolling along. So thanks for watching today, guys. Appreciate it. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. See you tomorrow.